to create an activities, if you want to create any activity, if you want to create, the first step for creating an activity is create a class with subtype of Android.app.activity is a class. Okay, there is a class called activity is the class name, so which is available in the Android.app package. Okay, this is the first step for creating an activity. Create a class with subtype of what? Android.app.activity. So here my question is why we have to extend this activity class? This is my question. This is the first step for creating a activity. Create a class with subtype of Android.app.activity. But my question is what? Why we had to extend this activity class? What is the need of extending this activity class? See, if you want to understand this, if you want to understand this statement, if you want to understand why your class should be subtype of Android.app.activity, first you have to understand the activity lifecycle. You have to understand. First, you have to understand what the activity lifecycle you have to understand. So if you know what exactly activity lifecycle, then you'll understand why our class should be a subtype of activity class. Okay. So here, let's see. First, we'll discuss the activity lifecycle. We'll discuss first. So first, we'll discuss what activity lifecycle. So mainly there are 4 states are there in the activity. One is a does not exist state. One is activity does not exist state. Next, activity is in foreground state. Activity does not exist state. Activity is in foreground state. Activity is in pause state, and activity is in background state. These are the 4 states of an activity. Okay, activity is having how many states? 4 states. Does not exist state. Activity is in foreground state. Activity is in pause state, and activity is in background state. These are the 4 states of an activity. Okay, so I'll try to explain this activity lifecycle. I'll help with the help of one application. Okay, so these are the 4 states in the activity class. Does not exist, foreground, pause, and background. These are the 4 states. Activity is having how many states? Activity is having 4 states. These are the 4 states of an activity. Okay, next, there are 7 major methods are there in the activity class. Following are the major methods. Following are the major methods in activity class. Following are the major methods in activity class which will participate in activity lifecycle. Following are the major methods in activity class which will participate in activity lifecycle. Because there are a lot of methods are there in the activity class. There are a lot of methods are there in the activity class. In the activity class, there are lot of methods are there in the activity class, but all the methods will not participate in the life cycle. In the activity class, there are a lot of methods are there, but all the methods will not participate in the life cycle. It will not participate. There are a few major methods are there, so only these methods only will participate in the life cycle. Let's see what are the methods. 7 methods will participate in the activity life cycle. The methods are nothing but one is on create is one method. On create, on start, on resume, on create, on start, on resume, on pass, on stop, on stop, on restart, and on destroy. On restart and on destroy. These are the 7 major methods in the activity class. On create, on start, on resume, on pause, on stop, on restart, and on destroy. These are the 7 major methods in the activity class which will participate in the activity lifecycle. It's most important in the interviews. Most important in the interviews. They'll ask you, so what is this activity lifecycle and all? Okay, so these are what? These are the 7 major methods in the activity class which will participate in the activity lifecycle. Okay, so now I'll try to demonstrate this activity lifecycle with the help of one application. I'll try to demonstrate this activity lifecycle with the help of one application. I'll try to demonstrate. Okay, let's see that activity lifecycle. connecting the device. Let's loading. Just wait for a few minutes. I'm trying to show my phone preview. So it's unable to access, I guess. Just give me a minute. Another application. It's taking a lot of time. Let's try another approach. I'm trying. Let's see. Web version of what? Android. And here, where is the option? In web version, it's not now. Device 2. I mean, how can I get the preview here? Air mirror. Okay. And non-rooted devices is not supported by the current browser. You can. When it's asking if you want to use, you have to root your device. You have to root. So it's a lengthy process. Let's see here. I mean, is it the right approach? Whatever we are following. And root permission means in your Android phone. Okay, leave about that. I'll take any another example. I'll take simple example. Yeah, I got it. So I'll try to demonstrate this activity lifecycle with the help of an application. I'll try to demonstrate. For example, in my phone, best example, whatever you know, the best example. Let's take WhatsApp application. Best example, taking what? I'm taking the WhatsApp application. I'm taking. So let's take this WhatsApp application. Okay. So this WhatsApp application contains some activities, right? This WhatsApp application contains some activities. Can you know what is the state of an activity now? Can you know what is the state of an activity now? This application contains some activities, right? Can you know what is the state of an activity now? It is in a does not exist state. It's not in a stop state. It is in a does not exist state. Still, it has not started. Still, it is not started. So here, the first state of an activity is nothing but activity does not exist state. So let's see here. So here, the first state of an activity is nothing but activity does not exist state. This is the first state of an activity. Activity activity does not exist state. This is the first state of an activity. This is what the first state of an activity. Now what I'm doing is I'm selecting this WhatsApp application. I'm selecting what? WhatsApp application I'm selecting now. Once if you select this WhatsApp application, if you select, you'll get some activities you'll get into foreground. You will get some activities you will get into foreground. You will get some activities you will get into what? Into foreground you'll get. Initially this activity is in a does not exist state. Initially this activity is in what? In a does not exist state. Now the activity is entered into which state? Now the activity is entered into foreground state. Now the activity is entered into what? Into foreground state. The activity is entered. Initially it's not it's in a does not exist state. Now the activity is in which state? Activity is in a foreground state. Meaning when activities came into the foreground, the state of an activity is nothing but it's a foreground. Okay, one second. So now initially it does not exist state. Now the activity is in a which state? Activity is in a foreground state. Initially this activity is in a does not exist. Now it is entered into what? Into a foreground state. It is entered. Okay. So it's going to call these three methods to enter the activity into foreground state. Internally in the activity class, it's going to call these three methods. One is on create, on start, and on resume. On create, on start, and on resume. By calling these three methods, the activity will come from does not exist state to which state? Into the foreground state. Okay. Can you know what is the state of an activity now? The state of an activity is in a activity in does not exist state. Activity is in does not exist state. So once if you select this power button, once if you select, See, I'm selecting the power button, I'm selecting. Once if you select power button, what will happen now? The screen is off, right? The screen is off. Meaning, what is the state of an activity now? Can you know what is the state of an activity? Activity is not destroyed. Activity is not destroyed, as well as it's not in a background state also. Activity is not destroyed and activity is not in a background state. Activity is going to enter into which state? Activity is going to enter into pause state. Will enter. Now the state of an activity is what? Activity is in a pause state. Activity is in which state? Activity is in a pause state. Meaning still activity is there, but it's in a pause state. So it's going to enter, before going to enter the activity into pause state, before going to enter the activity into pause state, it's going to call a method called onPause method. Before going to enter the activity into pause state, it's going to call a method called what? OnPause method is going to call. Now the activity is in a pause state. So whenever you select the power button, meaning again I'm selecting the power button, I'm selecting again. Again I'm selecting the power button. See, initially this activity is in pause state. Earlier this activity is in a pause state. So once if you select the power button, we got the activity into foreground. We got again we got the activity into which state? Into foreground state we got. Today, so background state, sorry, pause state, we got the activity from pause state to foreground state we got. An activity will come from pause state to foreground state. An activity will come from pause state to foreground state by calling a method called onResume method. By calling a method called what? OnResume method. It's going to call. It's going to call a method called what? OnResume method is going to call. Remember, all the activities will maintain in a stack. All the activities will maintain in a stack. It will maintain all the activities. Stack means last in. So all the activities will maintain what? All the activities will maintain in a stack. It will maintain all the activities. All the activities will maintain in a stack. Okay, last in, first up. For example, this is your viewpoint. This is your viewpoint. Now, which screen is visible to you now? This is your viewpoint. Now in the activity stack. Now in the activity stack, which screen is visible to us now? Which screen is visible as? Main actor. I mean this list of contacts. Just I'm specifying here LCM specifying, meaning list of contacts. List of contacts screen is visible. Okay. So now one activity is visible to us. One activity is in a foreground state. Just 1 second, guys. 1 second, please. Hello. Hello. హేమంత్ నేను క్లాస్లో ఉన్నాను ఇప్పుడు ఆన్లైన్ క్లాస్లో నేను కొంచెం తర్వాత కాల్ చేయను ఓకే సాటర్డే గూగుల్ క్లౌడ్ మెసేజింగ్ అని ఉంటుంది గూగుల్ క్లౌడ్ మెసేజింగ్ నేను కాల్ చేస్తాను మళ్ళీ నేను చేస్తానండి క్లాస్ అయిపోయి చేస్తాను ఓకే yeah, sorry guys. So now this is one activity is visible to us now. Now one activity is visible as one activity is in a foreground state, that is a list of contacts. Now what I'm doing is I'm selecting one contact. I'm selecting this, for example, I'm selecting this Amar contact. I'm selecting this Amar contact. I'm selecting. So once if you select this contact, once if you select, initially this activity is in a does not exist state. Now if you select any particular contact, if you select any particular contact, if you select, we got one more activity into foreground. We got one more activity into foreground. Already there is a activity in the stack. What is the activity name? List of contacts is already there in the stack. Now what will happen is you will get one more activity on top of this. You will get one more activity on top of this. For example, I selected Amar contact. I selected. Meaning on top of this list of contacts, you will get one more activity. You will get into foreground. You'll get one more activity into what? Into foreground you will get. Meaning now which screen is visible as? Which activity is visible as now? Amar contact is visible as. What about the list of contacts? List of contacts is going to enter into what? Into background state will enter. So if any some other If some other activity comes to foreground, the current foreground activity is going to enter into what? Into background state. If some other activity comes to foreground, the current foreground activity is going to enter into its state? Into background state. If some other activity comes to foreground, the current foreground activity is going to enter into background state will enter. The current foreground activity is going to enter into background state. Meaning which one is going to enter foreground, which one is going to enter into background? Meaning Amar contact is a foreground activity, list of charts is a background activity now. An activity is going to be entered into background state by calling two methods. One is on pause method, another thing is on stop method. One is on pause method, another thing is what? On stop method. By calling these two methods, the activity will be entered into the background state. Meaning in the list of charts, it's going to call these three methods, and the Amar activity, it's going to call these three methods is going to call. Now there are two activities are there in the stack. One is the Amar contact, second thing is the list of charts. If you select the back button here, see I'm selecting the back button here, I'm selecting the back button in Amar contact. What will happen? So once if you press this back button, the current foreground activity is destroyed. What will happen? The current foreground activity is what? The current foreground activity is going to be destroyed. The current foreground activity will be what? Destroyed. Meaning this current foreground activity is this one, right? This Amar contact is there, right? This is a current foreground activity. This activity is going to be destroyed. This activity is going to be what? Destroyed. Automatically which screen is visible as? If the current foreground activity is destroyed, automatically the background activity comes to what? Foreground. If the current foreground activity is destroyed, automatically the background activity comes to what? Foreground. I'll repeat once again. If the current foreground activity is destroyed, automatically the background activity comes to what? Foreground. Okay. So the current foreground activity is going to be destroyed by calling three methods. One is on destroy, on stop, and on pause. So by calling these three methods, the current foreground activity is going to be destroyed by calling these three methods: on pause, on stop, and on destroy. Whenever the current foreground activity is destroyed, automatically what will happen? The background screen will be visible to what? The foreground. The background activity comes to foreground. The background activity is going to be comes to foreground by calling these three methods. It should be in the same order, boss. It should be in the same order also. First, it's going to call on restart method. Second, it's going to call on start, on restart, on start, and on resume. So by calling these three methods, the background activity comes to foreground: on restart, on start, and on resume. By calling these three methods, the background activity is going to enter into its state, into the foreground state. It's going to enter. Okay, this is the activity life cycle. This is what the activity life cycle. Meaning, if some other activity comes to foreground, enter the current foreground activity into background state. Okay, if there is no activities in the stack, completely close the application. This is what it's a activity life cycle. Meaning, who will maintain this activity life cycle, or who has to write the logic? Who has to write the logic to maintain this activity life cycle? Who has to write the logic? As a developer, we had to write the logic to maintain this activity life cycle. Meaning we had to write the logic for all these things. We had to write the logic. Like some other activity comes to foreground, enter this foreground activity into background. If user select the power button, if user is getting a call, enter the activity into pause state. When user destroy the activity, meaning when user press the back button, dismiss the current foreground screen and show the background screen to the user. So user has to write the logic to maintain this entire life cycle. User has to write the logic to maintain this entire life cycle. But it's very difficult for us, the developer. Meaning it's very difficult for the developer to maintain this life cycle. That's why, and it's not not a one-time logic. If you are creating 100 screens in your project, in all the 100 screens, we had to write the logic to maintain this lifecycle. You had to write the logic. That's why Android is giving a class called Android is giving a class called Android is giving a class called Android.app is a package. Android.app is a package, and there is a class called activity is a class. What is the class name? Activity is the class. Android.app is a package name, and activity is the class. So if you want to create any activity, if you want to create any activity, for example, I want to create an activity called main activity is the activity name. I want to create an activity called what? Main activity is the activity name. If you want to create any activity, if you want to create, your class should be subtype of. If you want to create any activity, if you want to create, your class should be subtype of what? Android.app.activity class. Meaning which concept you are using here? Which concept you are using? We are using the inheritance concept we are using. We are using what? The inheritance concept we are using. Meaning to maintain this life cycle, already all the properties already defined in this activity class. Meaning once again you need to write the logic. Once again you need to write the logic to maintain this activity life cycle. I'll repeat once again. Once again you need to write the logic to maintain this activity life cycle. Simply what we had to do is, if you want to create your own activity, if you want to create your own activity, if you want to create, just create a class with subtype of activity class. That's it. If you want to create your own activity, if you want to create, just create a class with subtype of what? Activity class. That's it. Okay. So here, what is the first step for creating an activity? Create a class with subtype of Android.app.activity class. So I raised a question here. What is the question? Why we had to extend this activity class? Why we had to extend that activity class? To maintain the activity lifecycle. To maintain the activity lifecycle, our class should be subtype of. To maintain the activity lifecycle, our class should be subtype of Android.app.activity class. To maintain the activity lifecycle, our class should be subtype of what? A class should be subtype of Android.app.activity is the class name. This is the first step for creating an activity. Okay, let's open your Java file. So in our last class, we created a project we created, right? What is our project name? Hello World is a project. In our last class, we created a project called Hello World is a project. Let's open this Hello World project. Let's open the Hello World project. In this Hello World project, we see the XML file. XML file creation we discussed in the last class. We created a linear layout we created, and we created our own user interface we created in the XML. Okay, XML file creation we seen in the last class. Now today we'll see the Java file. Java file is located in which folder? There is a folder called Java is a folder. In this Java folder, we can find a folder with the package name. This is our package, cubex.helloworld is a package. In this package, you can find a Java file you can find. See, this is a Java file. Main activity.java is the Java file. Let's open this Java file. Let's open this main activity Java. See, by default, we got the Java code we got by default. What I'm doing is I'm removing this Java code. I removed the Java code. I removed the Java code. I removed. Now we'll see the steps. Now we'll see manually. We'll see the steps how to create the activity. What is the first step for creating an activity? We have to create a class. We have to create public class. What is the class name? Let's take. I want to create a class. I want to create called main activity is the class name. I want to create an activity. I want to create public class main activity. This activity class should be subtype of extends. Extends what? What is the package name? Android.app.activity is the class name. This is the first step for creating an activity. This is the first step for creating an activity. Just create a class with subtype of android.app.activity is the class name. This is the first step for creating an activity. Okay. Okay. First step is done. We create a class we created with subtype of activity class. But see here, it's showing an error. It's showing error is nothing but this class, the main activity class, we are declaring under one package. What is the package name we define? qx.helloworld is the package name. So here, the initial statement in your Java file should be Java file should be what? The package declaration. So the first statement, let's add the package declaration. Package qx dot what is the package name? Hello world is the package. So initial statement, we added the package declaration, we added the initial statement, we added the package declaration, we added. Okay, then after that we created class with subtype of activity class. Okay. Okay, this is the first step. Next. Second step is nothing but see, out of these 7 methods, because these 7 methods are there, these 7 methods will participate in the activity lifecycle. These 7 methods will participate in the activity lifecycle. Okay. So which method is going to be called out of these 7 methods? Out of these 7 methods, which method is going to be called first? Okay. onCreate method is going to be called first. Okay. So there may be n number of methods. But so out of n number of methods in your activity, first it's going to call a method called what? onCreate method is going to call, meaning it's equals to your main method. So here the second step is nothing but same like main method in C, C++ Java. Same like main method in C, C++ Java. Okay. In Android activity, onCreate method will be invoke first. onCreate method will be what? Invoke first. So provide the implementation for provide the implementation for onCreate method. Same like main method in C, C++ Java. In Android activity, onCreate method will be invoked first. So provide the implementation for what? Provide the implementation for onCreate method. We have to provide the implementation. Okay. So let's see here in your activity class. We have to override a method. This activity class, android.app.activity class, contains a method. What is the method name? onCreate is a method. Already this activity class contains that method. Just if you put the cursor inside the class, if you type a character O, automatically you'll get the list of method names you'll get with the starting character O. So here we had to select this method. We had to select what is the method name? onCreate is a method. Let's override this method. Already this superclass contains this onCreate method. So in the child class, we are providing the same method we are providing. So that concept is called as what? Method overriding, right? So we are overriding the onCreate method. We are overriding. Just select that onCreate method. Select the onCreate method. Mean we are overriding the onCreate method. We are overriding. We are overriding the onCreate method. We are overriding. So in this onCreate method, see the first statement here. What is the first statement? Super.onCreate. Why we are writing this super.onCreate? Because see, we are using the inheritance concept we are using here. Meaning already the superclass onCreate method, already this superclass onCreate method already contains some logic. Already the superclass onCreate method contains some logic which is used to maintain the activity lifecycle. Which is used to maintain what? The activity lifecycle. But in the child class, if you override the same method, then what will happen? If you override the method, if you override in the child class, the superclass onCreate logic is going to be removed or not? Yes, the superclass onCreate logic will not be executed. If this logic is not executed, you cannot maintain the lifecycle. You cannot maintain. I'll repeat once again. We are overriding the onCreate method. We are overriding. Superclass already contains a method called onCreate method. If you provide the same method in the child class, the superclass onCreate method logic will not be executed. If this logic is not executed, you cannot maintain the lifecycle. You cannot maintain the lifecycle. You cannot maintain. So our requirement is we had to override the onCreate method, but it should not remove the onCreate logic. It should not remove. That's why what we are doing is, boss, before overriding that method, before whatever the logic I wants to implement, before implementing that logic, first invoke the superclass onCreate method logic. That's why we are writing a statement called super.onCreate. Meaning before executing our activity logic, first invoke the superclass onCreate logic. Okay. So there is a meaning of the statement super.onCreate. And this onCreate method is taking one input parameter called bundle is an input parameter. The onCreate method is taking one input parameter called what? Bundle is an input parameter. The purpose of this bundle object is nothing but, so basically bundle is a class. By saying this you can understand bundle is a class and it's a variable. Some people are going to ask you what is in the saved instance state. There isn't any specific meaning, was it's just a variable name. It's just a variable name for the bundle object. You can give anything you can give. So we rename that saved instance state with the variable BB variable because it's a variable just. Okay, what is in a bundle? So basically bundle is a class which is used to maintain the state of an activity. What is the purpose of bundle? Bundle is a class which is used to that's what I told you, right? If you don't call the parent onCreate method, you cannot maintain the lifecycle, you cannot maintain. Already the superclass onCreate logic contains some logic already it contains. The superclass onCreate method contains some logic which is used to maintain the lifecycle, which contains some lifecycle methods. Some logic is there already in the onCreate method. If you don't execute this method, then this you cannot maintain the lifecycle, you cannot maintain. Because we are overriding here. Overriding means what? The logic is going to be removed. If this logic is removed, then you cannot maintain the lifecycle, you cannot maintain. That's why we had to override the method, but we want to invoke the superclass onCreate logic. We want to execute whatever the logic is there in the onCreate, that logic you want to execute. That's why we are calling super.onCreate we are calling. Okay. Okay, this onCreate is taking what? The bundle object as an input. So bundle is a class which is used to maintain the state of an activity. Which is used to maintain what? The state of an activity. Like if you want to know whether your activity is in a foreground state or your activity in the pause state or in a background state, if you want to know the state of an activity, then we use the bundle object we use. I'll repeat once again. If you want to know the state of an activity, then we use what? The bundle object we use. Okay. So this is the second step. Override the onCreate method. Override the onCreate method is the second step. First step is extends activity. Second step is override the onCreate method. And third step is we design the user interface. We design the UI in XML. We design the UI in XML. We had to set the XML file to Java file. We design the user interface in XML. We design the UI. We design the user interface in XML. We design the user interface. We had to set that XML user interface. We had to set to the Java file. We had to set, meaning there should be some link, right? Because otherwise these two are the independent files. These two are what? The independent files. XML is the independent file and Java is the independent file. There should be some link between these two files, the Java file and XML file. We will provide that link. We'll provide by using a method called setContentView is a method. What is the method name? setContentView is a method. Specify the XML file here. r.layout.xml file. r.layout.xml file. setContentView is a method. By using this setContentView method, we can set the XML file, we can set to the Java file, we can set. and we place the XML file in the layout folder we place. That's why we are calling a method r.layout.specify the XML file. This is the third step, where you have to call this method set content view method in the onCreate method. Okay. Now let's see here. We are overriding the onCreate method. We are overriding inside this onCreate method. Inside this onCreate method, we design the user interface. We design in XML. We design the UI. See the layout folder. In layout, this is the XML file. Activity underscore main dot XML file. This is the XML file. Now we want to set this XML file. We want to set to the Java file. There is a method called set content view is a method. What is the method name? Set content view is a method. Set content view is a method. Specify the XML file to the Java file here. r.layout.r.layout. Specify the XML file. Which XML file you want to set? I want to set this XML file. I want to set activity underscore main is there, right? This XML file I want to set to the Java file I want to set, because this is what the user interface we created. This is what the user interface we created in XML. It's loading still. Okay. This is what the user interface we created in XML in the layout folder, activity underscore main.xml. This is the user interface we created in XML. And we created Java file also we created. Now by using this statement, set content view statement, by using this statement, we are setting that XML file we are setting to the Java file we are setting. By using the set content view method, we are setting the XML file we are setting to the Java file we are setting that XML file. Okay. Okay, our first application is completed. We successfully created the XML file we discussed and Java file we discussed. Now my requirement is I want to test the application I want to test. So if you want to test the application, how can you test the application now? Because I am developing this Android. Where we develop this application? On top of Mac I develop. On top of Mac operating system, I developed this application I developed. But basically where this Android application is going to be installed, or where we can install this Android application in a Android platform we can install. Meaning how can I test the application? See, if you want to test this application, we are having two options. If you want to test this application, we are having two options. The two options are nothing but, if you have an Android phone, let's take for example, imagine you have an Android phone. If you have an Android phone, then how can I test the application? For example, if you don't have an Android phone, then how can you test the application? If you have an Android phone, how can you test the application? If you don't have an Android phone, then how can you test the application? Let's take the first case, because majority of the people are using the Android phones. Yeah, there is a class called app compact activity. But have you seen what is a parent for app compact activity? Have you seen what is a parent for app compact activity class? Just click on the control button and click on this app compact activity, and see here, app compact activity is a child of which class? Fragment activity. Click on this control button and select the fragment activity. Select the control button and click on this fragment activity. It's a base fragment activity, right? So if you move, so finally you will get the end of the class. Finally you will get as an activity class. You will get finally. If you see here, finally we got what? Activity we got. Okay. So basically from the Android Studio onwards, we are getting this app compact activity we are getting from Android Studio onwards. But earlier, basically it should be a subtype of activity class only. But why it's by default, why it is taking the app compact activity? Because in the further class I'll tell you why by default it's taking as an app compact activity. But basically this is the rule. Even if you take app compact activity also, finally it's a child of what? Finally it's a child of activity class. Okay. Okay, these are the steps. Okay, what we are discussing, how to deploy the application, meaning how to test the application. Let's take the first case. You don't have you have an Android phone. If you have an Android phone, then how can you test the application? Simple was, If you have an Android phone, first what we have to do is just go to settings, go to your phone settings, go to your phone settings. Here you can find the option called USB debugging is there, right? Here you can find the option called developer options. In different places you can find, I mean, based on the device to device. So this location is to be different, but basically in the settings, in settings you can find the option called developer options. You can find in settings you can find the option called what? Developer options. In these developer options, you can find an option called USB debugging here. You can find an option called what? USB debugging. First, enable the USB debugging option. First, you have to enable what? The USB debugging option enable in your phone. That's it. Enable the USB debugging. Connect your phone with USB. Connect your phone with what? USB. And once if you connect your phone with USB, see here, this is what the application we created. Just click on this run button. This play symbol is there, right? Here, run symbol. Click on this run icon. If your phone is connected through USB, if your phone is connected, you'll get this device. You'll get here. See Samsung GT. My device is connected. Just click on the OK button. That's it. Enable the USB debugging in your phone and connect your phone with USB. Automatically, you will get this app. You'll get in your phone. You'll get. Let's see here. Second. It's loading the app. Still, it will take some time. It will take. Wait for a few minutes. Okay, now the app is installed. We got the output. We got welcome to the Microsoft is the output we got. Okay, this is the. I mean, directly I installed in my phone. I installed. It's not a virtual device. It's my phone. I'm showing my phone preview to you. Okay, it's my phone. Okay, this is the first case. If you have an Android phone, directly enable the USB debugging option and connect the phone, and directly you can run the application. You can run. Let's take the second case now. Second case is nothing but if you don't have an Android phone. What is the second case? If you don't have an Android phone, then how can you test the application? If you don't have an Android phone, your Android SDK is providing a tool called the Android SDK is providing a tool called what? Avd Manager is the tool. What is the tool name? Avd Manager. If you don't have an Android phone, the Android SDK is providing a tool called what? Avd Manager is the tool. By using this Avd Manager, we can create a virtual device. You can create. I'll repeat once again. By using this Avd Manager tool, we can create a virtual device. You can create a virtual Android device. You can create by using this Avd Manager tool. You can create a virtual Android device. You can create by using this Avd Manager tool. So where you can find this Avd Manager tool? So here only. See in the header, you can find 3 tabs. You can find here. One is Avd Manager, SDK Manager, Android Device Monitor. So you can find 3 tabs. You can find here. Okay. So now select this Avd Manager. Select what? Avd Manager. So once if you select this Avd Manager, once you select the Avd Manager, so you'll get this window. You'll get. See in my system already one Avd is already configured. A virtual device is already configured. First, what I'll do is I'll remove this Avd. I'll remove. I removed that virtual device. I removed now. I removed that virtual device. I removed. For example, if you want to create a new virtual device, if you want to create a new device, let's select this option, create virtual device. If you want to create a new device, let's select what? This is a window you'll get. So once if you select this Avd Manager, this is a window you'll get. Here, select this create virtual device. Select what? Create virtual device. Here you will get different screen sizes. You will get like Android 480 by 800 is one resolution, 720 by 480 by 854, 480 by 800. Like there are different screen resolutions are there. Different screen resolutions are there. Okay. So here you can take any version you can take. For example, I'm taking here this Nexus 1 is there, right? 480 by 800. I'm taking this Nexus 1. I'm taking next. Click on next. And here you'll get all the list of installed Android versions you'll get. So in my device, so it's Lollipop is installed. Android 5.1 is installed in my device. So you'll get the list of Android versions you'll get. So here let's select the version. Click on next. And what is the device name? If you want, you can give any specific device name. You can give, like for example, I'm specifying Android ONT online training at 9 p.m. I specified. Android ONT 9 p.m. I specified. Just click on the finish button. So now here a virtual device is created now. A virtual device is what? A virtual device is created. Now you can run the application, you can run. Or you can directly can select the virtual device, you can run the application here. But so you need to start from here also. Let's select the run button. You can create a virtual device, you can create, sorry, you can select the available device. This is my Android phone. It's already connected. I am removing this my phone, I'm removing now. I removed my phone, I removed from the USB. If you don't have a phone, then you can launch the emulator. Emulator or AVD both are same, virtual device. Just click on this OK button. It will create a virtual device. It will create. Let's see here. It will open a virtual device. It will open. It will take some time to start this virtual device. This is the Android virtual device. It takes some time to start this virtual device. So once the AVD is started, then we can install the application. We can install in AVD. We can install. Let's see here. We'll see. So it will take some time to start. Just I'm waiting for that. Okay, 5 minutes play. It will take some a long time. It will take first time. Just action bar I will teach. App compact. What is there in app compact? It's just a supporting library file, right? Action bar will discuss. App compact is just a supporting library. What is there in app compact? I don't understand. And themes means nothing but it's just a style attribute. To say frankly, 90% of the developers will do the copy paste. Themes means nothing but okay. Anyway, we'll see. Are you working? I have some doubts. Vanita and one more person called Bunty. You both are working in Android? Okay. Then how you know so all these concepts, action bar, app compact and all? Hmm? Okay. So now the AVD is started. Now the AVD is started. Virtual device is started. And whatever the options are there in Android, you'll get all the options you'll get here, the same options. Okay. Let's run the application. Let's run the application. And the AVD is available now. The virtual device is available. Let's click on the OK button. Now the application will install in the virtual device. It will install. Action bar will discuss and app compact will discuss. We'll discuss some libraries in the app compact. Okay. It's installing the application. In the background you can see the information. It is installing the application in AVD. Okay. Let's try to work on up to this today. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see the next example. I'm closing the sessions a little early because right, it's heavy rainings here. And just because of this session I'm staying in the office just to take the class. Okay. So let's practice up to this. Try to configure the environment and try to test your first hello world application. And in the tomorrow class we'll see our first application we'll see. If you have any queries, just ask me because it will take some time to load this one. And from Monday onwards, I'll take the session 1.5 hour session. I'll take from 9 to 10:30. I'll take from Monday onwards. Okay. Yeah. So now it is installed. The project it is installed. We got the output. We got welcome to Microsoft. Okay. So if you have any queries, just let me know the queries. Otherwise, we'll close the session for today. I told you right, just because of this raining and all demo sessions and all, I'm closing the session by 10 o'clock. And from Monday onwards, I'll take the sessions from 9 to 10:30. I'll take from Monday. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So this is a mail ID. If you want, you can. So okay, guys. I hope there is no any queries. Okay, let's work on up to this, and tomorrow class we'll discuss our first example. We'll discuss in our tomorrow's class. Okay. So thank you. See you tomorrow.